Hello everybody, welcome to the capital, welcome to the den. Easter Monday football awaits us. Norwich City on the hunt for some Easter redemption after the events that unfolded at Carrow Road on Friday. I can't remember what your score prediction was. I think I went 3-1, so I got the 3 Norwich bit right. I just didn't quite get the other 4 Portsmouth goals. So we both had goals, to be fair, but not maybe, none of us, I think, foresaw the way that unfolded. And Norwich City, of course, will hopefully, and we can only say hopefully, be keen to make amends to that, particularly in front of a huge away following, which to our left, that stand, both upper and lower tiers, are going to be kitted out by Norwich City fans this afternoon, near on 3,000. And in a couple of minutes, we're going to have some very, very interesting team news for you. I mean, Paddy, you've put some teasers online, should we say?
Only so that somebody would come and join us rather than me and you just chatting here aimlessly to nobody in particular.
Yes, and that is the point. There's some eyebrow raising stuff that is in that team, particularly in one decision in particular, which we'll get onto. But Paddy, worth saying in terms of Angus Gunn, obviously we've seen online that his wife has had the baby, and congratulations to Gunn Senior and all the Gunn family, Angus and his partner as well. We don't believe at this stage, unless there's going to be a 11th hour shock, that he's here today and involved.
No, you would be right, I think, to make that assumption, Connor, and whether he'll stick with George Long or whether he'll make a change, we'll find out very shortly. But no Angus Gunn, and I don't think we're breaching any confidences. No Kellen Fisher. There's 1 or 2 people have cottoned onto that on social media since Friday. Looks like that. Anybody who was there who've subsequently seen the highlights, he made that burst in the first half, and Josh Murphy came across, tackled him. He played on, but potentially.
We'll wait for it to be confirmed by Johannes post-match.
Absolutely, yeah. And maybe a certain big money signing from January isn't with us either today. But, we'll update with Johannes after that. So, all in all, interesting. But on the upside, we do expect the main man, Mr. Sargent, to be fit and available. So that is a positive because...
So you see, someone's asked if you're starting at number 9. You're definitely not starting.
It's never that bad. No, it's never that bad. No, don't worry. Although I probably could do better than Ashley Barnes, but that's a different story. We're more mobile anyway. But
right, here is the team news. Some very interesting lines in it. The headline being that George Long dropped by Yanisov Torup today. Vicente Reyes starts for Norwich City in goal. The back 4 is Stacey, Duffy, Cordoba and McLean. A midfield 3 of Wright, Nunez and Marcondes, with Schwartout, Sainz and Sargent the front 3. The subs are as follows: Long, Doyle, McConville, Sorensen, Gibbs, Forson, Slimani, Hernandez and Dylan Jones makes the bench as well, the under-21 striker. So just to recap that as well, no George Long in goal for Norwich City this afternoon. He's been dropped by Johannes Ofter up to the bench. Vicente Reyes starts his third championship start after, of course, games against Oxford and Sheffield Wednesday earlier on. When would that have been? Earlier this month. So just to run through that again. Reyes in goal, Stacey, Duffy, Cordoba and Kenny McLean as the back 4. Wright, Nunez and Marcondes as the midfield 3, with Schwartout, Sainz and Sargent. The subs bench: Long, Doyle, McConville, Sorensen, Gibbs, Forson, Slimani, Hernandez and Dylan Jones. Paddy Davitt, let's go straight to that goalkeeping decision. George Long dropped.
Well, on the evidence of what we saw on Good Friday, I don't think you could argue with that. That's parking George Long in a Norwich shirt, full stop, which you could discuss on a more broader level. And by no manner of means was it down to him, every single one of those 5 goals conceded, but too many goals with him sourcing where he could have done far better, I think, by common consent. And that doesn't have to be necessarily my opinion, your opinion, anybody here in the ground today's opinion. That's the opinion of Johannes Torup, and he's the only one that matters.
I think it's probably fact, if I'm honest.
Well, it's a fact now because he's dropped him out. So I think we're, by common consent, I don't think there's anybody who probably could argue on that showing.
Irrespective of Reyes, though. I think that's maybe the line we could go down. Obviously, I've got Dan Barden in the building. He came back from Swindon. He has had championship experience on the basis of what we saw from them 2 games from Reyes, whenever it was, relatively recently. Are you maybe surprised that Barden hasn't gotten the nod, or is at least a little bit closer to it?
Not surprised. No, would I do that? Yes. But obviously, the fact that he went Reyes for that 2 games when Gunny and Long were unavailable. And subsequently talking around that, he's obviously got a new contract early, just before those first 2 home games, didn't he, where he made his debut in the Oxford game. That's right, he got a contract confirmation announced the night before. So whatever you think about his performance in those 2 games, and I thought Oxford, he didn't have a huge amount to do, in truth, questioning maybe on the goal, but Sheffield Wednesday second half particularly, I thought he looked way off it. A team who targeted him physically, and he looked vulnerable. So my fear now would be today that Alex Neil and Millwall will probably look at that and know full well that he struggled with that, and maybe look to do the same. You know, that is traditionally whenever we've come here, Millwall are a very physically imposing side. Set pieces, they put a lot of store on that, irrespective of the manager. And Alex Neil, I'm sure, will be looking to test out any fresh vulnerability from that young man. So he needs to be far better, for me, commanding his box. You know, he might be the junior partner there in a back line with the likes of Duffy, but he has to be the leader. He has to bawl and shout, you know, whether he's a 3-game rookie or longer, because frankly he was way below the levels against Sheffield Wednesday. He wasn't the only one, but he was way below. So today, there's no doubt there's an element of gamble to this selection, but you know, Johannes is weighing it up in the here and now, but also in the future. And if they, as they do, feel he is a keeper of some potential and promise, then these are the opportunities where he needs to show that is the case and step forward. Far more than he did against Sheffield Wednesday, where he was very timid, very introverted in terms of his personality, which is why, for me, Barden, we saw, I know it's going back away now, and there's a lot happened to him on a personal level with his health subsequently, but when he got pitched into that deep end, I think it was the second Barker title-winning season, he just looked physically as an imposing figure, but also his personality. He embraced that. I didn't see that from Reyes, if I'm honest. But, you know, let's hope after today we're saying, well, OK, yeah, Sheffield Wednesday was a bit of a false start for him. That's more like what we need to see from a prospect, by no manner of means the finished article. But this is all about youth and moving it further forward across the group, across the strategy. So we're seeing it again today with the keeper position, aren't we? Long out, Reyes in.
Indeed, and that's that choice. There's plenty more that we're going to go for. Obviously, we'll come on to Jurasek in a moment, and Callum Fisher as well. Obviously, not in the team, but Paddy, I wanted to ask you, because you know you spoke to Giannis post game, and I think it was the first comment he made when he came into the press conference room about, you know, his players essentially not being as motivated as Portsmouth, having to look some of them in the eyes and deciding who is motivated enough to play for the final 3 games of the season. With that in mind, are you a little bit surprised that as much of that team is quite similar to what we saw on Friday? Obviously, Marcondes has come in from the start. That front 3 is the same. Nunez and Wright started. The back 4, Barr and Fisher, is the same. And obviously, there's a change in goalkeeper. So we're not talking a starting 11 that's worlds apart, or is that just reflective of maybe the options that he's got to play with at the moment?
Well, yeah, both. But maybe he's looked into their eyes to follow what he said, and he's seen what he wanted to see. Very surprised Nunez still gets a go, not on his footballing ability, because at his best he's the best midfielder of his type in this squad, but looks like he's thrown it in to me. Looks like he's out the door and wants to be away in the summer. He's playing like a man who thinks he's out the door anyway, so that is a surprise. I thought maybe if Doyle was a little bit further along in his sort of recovery, you know, Duffy comes out the side, I think he's in the same bracket as a Nunez to me. He looks like he's checked out, so. But on the flip side, why has he not done that? Because if you go back to, can't remember what game it was,
Sheffield Wednesday away.
Well, I was thinking more recently, but
okay.
When I asked him, you know, would you now, is it, I think when the playoff thing had effectively gone to all intents and purposes, is it a chance to play a McConville? More of Wright, who wasn't in the side at that point. 1 or 2 others maybe, you could even go deeper down, Miles, for example. And he said, well, yeah, that's something I'd like to do, but at this moment in time, the player availability options are such that we can't really do that. And that might be explaining why, having said what he said on Good Friday, that outfield team looks very familiar to the one who lined up on Good Friday when he, as he rightly did, questioned their desire and their motivation. But maybe it's simply options. Is Liam Gibbs ready for a start? The answer is probably no.
Forson
likewise. Slimani is dipped, to be polite, in terms of his output. I mean, in fact, you've got a young Jones, you know, a striker who they brought in following a trial from low down the non-league pecking order. He's on the bench today, so maybe that underlines that it's limited availability that effectively is, when push comes to shove, decided that 11.
Yeah, and we've seen as well, haven't we, the sort of Slimani, Marcondes switching throughout the season. Obviously, the big news is that Josh Sargent is fit and available. Obviously, went off at half time on the in that Good Friday defeat with a shoulder injury, but I saw him leaving. There was no sling or anything, and you were hopeful then that maybe it didn't look as bad as it did initially, and thankfully that is the case, and he can start here this afternoon, because I think we can mention Nunez, Sainz, maybe other players in there. I think he is one man who has sort of carried himself really well in recent weeks, and certainly, and maybe he's got the best reason of them all to do it. Certainly hasn't maybe down tools, or certainly looked that way in terms of his performances. Right, let's go on to Jurasek then, because I know there's a lot of questions on him. Johannes Oftorp said on Friday that he was hopeful he'd be involved today. He's not made the matchday squad again, Paddy.
No, and it only fuels the narrative about what exactly have they purchased in that player for a considerable amount of money for Norwich. In terms of the mechanics of this, Johannes said in those answers that he trained fully, which was the key test, fully all last week. Didn't involve him for Portsmouth, but that if he continued to show that level in the 2 days in between, he would be involved today. The fact that he's not involved today, Johannes will update after the game, but the sound is we've got is that he's still feeling some pain. You know, he obviously, there's the two elements to this. There's the thigh issue that he picked up post-Hull. So maybe that it's still related to that. Apparently he did have a relapse of that further on in his recovery. And it's also this other point that Johannes has put out there about the almost building him up, the robustness that he requires to train at full pelt and then to actually play in this league with the intensity that is required. You know, you look at the amount of minutes and the amount of starts limited he had for Slavia. This is a young man who hasn't played a lot of football, certainly in the last 18 months or so. So I don't think there's anything in terms of fresh injury issues. I think it's more of the same theme, sadly, and it's not a good look for him, the club, or anybody connected around this, because, as Johannes has said, you know, he's frustrated. He wants to play him. He wants him to come in and show what he's about, show the fans, show his teammates what they think they've signed. But if he's not physically capable to come through a block of training, then he's not physically capable to be involved in a match day situation. And I think now increasingly it looks like it's going to be park him and then get to the bottom of whatever needs to get to the bottom of. You know, they've scanned him, they've rescanned him. There's nothing untoward, but we've heard that. Yeah. We've heard that line with Gabe Forsyth.
It's the most sort of relatable one to this when you think about the pain that he was experiencing in scans showing that actually there was nothing there, and obviously they ended up having to open him up
and surgery. Yeah, so you hope that isn't the scenario that awaits for Jurasek. But again, that is the feedback when we speak about it, that when he's striking balls, he's feeling pain. So, but nothing's on the scan. So, yeah, let's hope it doesn't end in the Forsyth saga. Didn't mean to do that pun, but there you go. But it's not good. It's not a great look, and it just brings more scrutiny on the club as a whole, but also the physical performance department, the medical, the sports science team, because you brought a young player in for a lot of money who you think is going to be a key player, and he's not fit enough to get on the pitch. It's hugely frustrating for Johannes.
Yes, it is. Elliot Miles as well, just touching upon him because he's not involved today. Obviously signed that contract, was it last week? Very highly rated. We know that, been in a few matchday squads, made his debut. Not in today, wasn't in on Friday, and it sounds like that's more of a fitness concern than sort of a selection favouring other players ahead of him.
Yeah, well, illness apparently was why he wasn't involved Friday, and it's a very quick turnaround. So if he was viral or feeling something Friday, it's unlikely to be out of his system at this stage. So. And you've got Hernandez on the bench if required. If he gets on, that might be the last time we see him in a Norwich shirt. But again, much like, why hasn't he shuffled the pack? If the options aren't available, that limits his room for manoeuvre. And I'm sure if Miles was physically able to be involved, like Jurasek, he'd be involved today. So, yeah, we assume it's related to him being unwell Friday.
Yeah, and of course we will ask Johannes about that as well. And look, Dylan Jones, we touched upon him, got to mention him. What a story that is. Started the season in the 7th tier of non-league, playing for Plymouth Parkway. Gets a trial in, when was it, January time. Norwich signed him permanently after 2 goals, I think, for the under-21s against Crystal Palace. 4 months on, he finds himself in the matchday squad against Millwall for a championship game. It's remarkable, even in the event that he doesn't get on the pitch. If he does get on the pitch, what a story that is. But probably reflective maybe of their lack of striking options at the moment. We're seeing that's out.
Yeah, with him it's very much, you remember that bench, which included Miles and Mahova, who both got on at Sheffield United and then subsequently Leeds. I don't necessarily, unless And it's not beyond the realms, given Sargent's kind of fitness management record, that he's not able to last the distance. So maybe we will see him on the pitch. If not, I think it's very much one of a player they've identified, a young player, get him in and around it, like AJ Bridge in the last few squads. Get these young players exposed to what it's all about, the mechanics of a match day, being away with the squad, the sort of the hurdles that are involved if you want to make it at this level. And then that might stand him in good stead to go away and continue to impress at development level next season. And one would hope then push himself forward, as Mahovo has done this season, to be in and around it next season. But it's a great story, yeah. Plymouth Parkway. What tier are they? They're way
seventh. Is it Adam? Or we'll get Adam to look that up. But I'm pretty sure it's seventh tier.
Seventh tier, yeah, which is sort of Dereham level probably, yeah. So great story, and Kellen Fisher has not quite low down on the non-league pecking order, but they plucked him from that area. Mahovo. There are players outside the pro ranks who.
I believe he was trained as a PE teacher, wasn't he, Dylan Jones,
yeah.
prior to signing a professional contract with Norwich City. So goes to show how his life has changed in the last few months. Playing football in the Southern League pyramid. I mean, it's remarkable to be put up from there. I think he had trials at Brentford as well, didn't he, and other places. So yeah, it'd be interesting to see if he gets on today. Let's bring you the Millwall team then, because the interesting line from them is that, like Norwich, they've dipped into their goalkeeping reserves. George Evans gets his second start today. He's effectively their third choice goalkeeper. They've got Kramer, Cooper, Tanganga and Sturge as the back four, Kundal, Saville, Denor and Aziz as their midfield four, with Ivanovic and Coburn up front. The subs Jacob Preswosny, Aaron Collerley, Ryan Wintle, Daniel Kelly, Macaulay Langstaff, Ryan Leonard, Adomo Imakru, Wes Harding and AJ Matthews as well. And until probably Friday's 4-1 defeat against Blackburn, they were very much in with a shout at the playoffs. I think it's now looking quite a tall order. I think if they lose here today, they're 6 points off for free to play. It's going to be all but done in terms of goal difference as well. But yeah, what a job Alex Neil has done since coming in here. I think more wins than any other Championship team since he took over in December, which is pretty good going. And we all know the strength of them here. So that's their team. Obviously hit with some injuries as well. Although Tanganga returning, he didn't play on Good Friday. Is a boost for them. So there you go. That's their starting lineup. Paddy, let's speak about Kellen Fisher, because if, as we expect, that is his season done, what a remarkable season it's been for him. You mentioned his route, which is often kind of used to speak about him, and coming from non-league, obviously was at Norwich last season, didn't get exposed to much football, and has this season really emerged as Yanis Oftorup's chosen right back. I mean, it's an incredible story from him, and a breakthrough campaign. I'm sure we'll see reflected in a couple of weeks' time. He will be, you would expect, somewhere in that player of the season top three.
Yeah, he's one of the few success stories on the playing side. There's no doubt about it. There's a young player who has been given the opportunity, been exposed, and had it all his own way, which is for me embellishes the trajectory he's on. That he has had to go away. He has had to work at areas of his game that were maybe lacking. I'm thinking more the attacking elements, certainly in that comparison with Jack Stacey at the start of the season. I think now he's offering far more in the final third. He understands that's part of his craft when he's playing in a more accustomed right back role, but the tactical ability, the trust Yanis has in him to go in, step into midfield and invert and get on the ball in those areas. I like his physicality that he brings to how he plays the game. He is a bit of a throwback. He likes to tackle, likes to throw himself about. And given where they sourced him, you have to say that he now looks a fully grade Championship player, and will be, of no doubt, moving into next season. Now, one of the cornerstones in what feels like it's going to be a big turnover of players this summer, but post that, when the season swings round again, you expect Kellen Fisher will emerge as, despite his relative youth and inexperience, as one of the leaders in this team. Because if you're an even younger player in and around it, you just have to look at him and how he's grasped his opportunity, and how he's adapted, and how he's worked at his game and kept his head down and continued to work. And in a poor season, he's definitely a shining light.
Yeah, absolutely. And as you mentioned, I like the way he's adapted his game. We've seen him go inverted. We've seen him be that high and wide fullback. We've seen him sort of improve technically, obviously physically. I think even though maybe he doesn't look that imposing physically, that sort of crunch of tackle has been really refreshing as well. And yeah, he will deservedly get the accolades that he gets on Miles. Just on this comment, as Paddy said earlier, we believe that's an illness, which is why he's not involved and wasn't involved on Friday as well, rather than sort of those names being pushed to the front. Paddy, after the shenanigans or whatever word you want to use to describe Friday, it's important we see and not us, not the royal we, but those supporters crucially, and they've travelled in their numbers, they've filled that end out. It's going to be nearly 3,000 here in the capital today, roaring on a team that has nothing to play for. Obviously those tickets were subsidised by the players and the coach and the sporting director as well. Got to see a response here as a very bare minimum. Effort, desire, heart, all of those kind of intangible elements that should be a given anyway, really.
Yeah, funny enough, you just saying that. I did see a tweet from Darren Huckabee earlier. I'm just going to call it up now, but it was along the lines of...
Speaks a lot of sense, doesn't he, Hux?
It does, yeah. Well, I'm looking at a pint of Guinness, but big game today. This is Huck's big game today. It's about more than league position. It's about showing those travelling fans that it means something. And that's a former player of the parish who understands the connection with the fan base, understands the loyalty they show and the hard cash that they spend as well as their time. You know, not the longest journey today, but there'll be people in that away end today who went to Plymouth, went to Burnley, went to Bristol before that to see their team come away with no points, patchy performances in all three. If they're there today, at the very least they deserve is to show those players that it actually means something. And again, it's not us, it's the mouth. It came out of the mouth of their head coach on Friday. He questioned the desire and the motivation. As I said to him, that's a damning indictment for me.
That's an insult, isn't it, if you're a professional footballer?
It's a damning indictment.
Yeah.
It's a damning indictment. I mean, he didn't reference specific names to players, but to throw that accusation, which is what it was, at his playing staff, it's criminal, really. It's criminal. So, yeah, so that's the very least, irrespective of the result today, but they don't turn it in. And you look back at the highlights, lowlights of some of those Portsmouth goals, and some of the application or lack of from those Norwich players was... shocking, really. Unacceptable. So, yeah, just echo what Huck said. Anybody who turns up there today in a Norwich shirt, the very minimum you should give is your all. And then if you're not good enough, and the inexperience in Reyes' case maybe gets exposed, then so be it. But don't come off the pitch and the accusation is you lack desire, you lack motivation.
Yeah, absolutely, bang on. Just to cover off a few of these points, Tangfastic on YouTube, that's an injury as we understand it. There was another one further up about Angus Gunn. Obviously had a baby. Norwich would have travelled down last night. He wouldn't have been involved in those preparations. I don't think it's as simple as he doesn't want to be here, or there's obviously that contract situation. I think clearly that is a very, we know we've both got kids, so it's a very difficult, fluid situation when there's a birth involved. It's not as simple to say as, well, the baby's here and he should be here. There could be complex things that maybe we don't. I'm not saying this is the case, but there can be complex things, and it's not always a straight process. So you can kind of understand why he would be with his family today.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I don't think anybody should question him. That's far more important than being here in a Norwich shirt representing Norwich today. We know what it means to him, this football club, and if the situation had allowed, I'm sure he would have, as Johannes said, he would be desperate to play, but family comes first, so it's not even a debate, that is it? If he's not here, it's because he wants to be with his young family, so that's fair enough.
Yep, completely agree. Right, I'm feeling like this is going to be an impossible question, really, Paddy. What do you think is going to happen today?
Let's read a Nick's comment there, yeah. I mean, we sort of discussed that a little bit on the drive down, didn't we? That these next three games,
huge.
Even if it wasn't the accusations you could throw at them on Good Friday, but if it was, I don't know, hypothetically 1 point from the remaining three and or worse, then I think that we started to see that in a bigger multiple on Friday that directed at Johannes rather than the players, rightly or wrongly, and that will continue apace over the remaining three games because that will be, if they don't win any of these remaining three, they finish the season 3 league wins out of 16. That's so far removed from what this was supposed to be, which is building into year 2, year 3 progress, tangible progress. That's the reverse. So, and he, along with Napa, are the chief architects of this. So, rightly, if they don't get a performance today, don't get a performance in Middlesbrough, Cardiff at home, then quite rightly he's going to get that.
As J Crick 12 says, the noise gets louder, doesn't it? Then, and particularly the away end as it is here, with all of those fans on top of each other, they're going to know about it if they're not performing as they should. And this place, as we know, is not one that gives anything easily, and it's an intense atmosphere. It's not one where you can put in the level of performance that they did on Friday and expect to leave with anything. I'm going to pin you down for a score prediction though. What are you going to go for?
2-1 defeat, I'm afraid. Yeah, just because mainly the tipping point for me is a little bit like Portsmouth Good Friday. There's two teams here. Materially, there's only one who's got anything to play for in the here and now. If Millwall don't win today, that's any realistic, and it's not very realistic, having lost at Blackburn. But any chance of the top six has gone without a win today. So even though they've got their own injury issues, I think that will motivate that group of players, maybe just to get the job done. I don't expect Norwich to implode quite as graphically as Friday, but
famous last word.
yeah, well, maybe, but obviously the Reyes factor is a major imponderable now. Nobody quite knows how that's going to go. You hope for the lad himself, because a bad one today could really destroy his confidence, and he is a young man, and you don't want those bruises this early in your career. But how could you possibly go for a Norwich win on the evidence of the last 13 games? So 2-1 for me. Sorry.
Yeah, I agree. I think there was this comment that someone said about the first goal, and I completely agree. I think the first goal is going to be huge here, because if Norwich concede that, and they concede it within that first 20 minutes, you can understand then maybe those questions and motivations coming and bubbling back up to the surface. If they can keep themselves in a game and make this tight, and as we said, Millwall are in a similar predicament. Their goalkeeper's young, hasn't played much senior football. They've got to try and put him under pressure in the same way Millwall are going to be looking to do to Reyes. Like you, I think you'd have to be mad really to predict a Norwich win here today on the basis of what we've seen over the last few weeks, and I'm certainly not going to do that. So I think it's going to be. I can see like a 4-2, but I'm with you, Paddy. I think I'll go for a 2-1 and maybe play it a little bit cautious. So there we go.
I've not got them in the bag. I was going to put them on just to try and avoid that. I don't think it is that. I'm pretty sure it isn't that, but. Yeah, well, we'll get them out for Cardiff, maybe.
Yeah, well, it would fit the on the beach narrative, wouldn't it? Maybe and whatnot. Right, that probably sums it up. Pinkham.com, of course, the place to go throughout the afternoon. We've got the live blog up. We'll have all your coverage, all your analysis, all your reaction to this game. This man will be speaking to Yanis Off-Torp post-match as well, hopefully on a much more positive note than your last few conversations have been. That would be nice. And obviously, let's hope that those 3,000 who made the trip, maybe not as long as in recent weeks, but the trip from Norfolk are rewarded with, at the very least, some effort, some desire, a performance, and hopefully a result as well. Thanks for watching. Enjoy the rest of your Easter Monday, and we'll see you soon.